Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to compare all of the first 3D racing games that coincidentally all came out in 1994. Now I've got 6 of the most popular ones here across the most popular systems. I didn't include anything on PC because that's a whole rabbit hole that we could go down. Now the first one I want to cover was on the Super Nintendo, and as that console was only 16-bit, it needed a little help. So as you see, Stunt Race FX obviously is using the FX chip. Now, how well did that come out? Let's take a look. Alright, here we are for the first game, which was Stunt Race FX on the Super Nintendo. And let's just go ahead and get ourselves into a race. We'll just pick everything that's default. Now, novice, we're gonna need it, trust me. Yeah, we'll play at no high scores because I don't know if I've ever been able to finish a race. So as you can see, the frame rate is about 3, if that. And you're a bunch of monster trucks racing on a mostly 3D landscape. Pretty sure the wheels are 2D sprites. Oh, the controls, there's a bit of a lag to them because it can't process how much is going on the screen. Now, I will say it is kind of impressive in a way because there are, hills, there are backgrounds, very simple ones, there's Mario's, you have angles that you can drive on. It's not an awful game, but the frame rate just really gets to you after a while. Because I think somewhere around 5 or 6. It's not 2, like I said before. It's not good. But in 1994, on a Super Nintendo, I guess this could be seen as decent, I guess. But let's see what else there is to play that's much better. Alright, yeah, that wasn't the best. But, it had to do something on a 16-bit console. What could you do? Well, I know exactly what you could do. You could do something like virtual racing. This one is much better. In fact, let's take a look. Alright, the next game on the list was virtual racing on the Sega Genesis. So we're going to have a look at this. We're also going to leave everything on default. We're going to pick the first options. Alright. Now right away, you're going to notice everything's 3D now. And you're also going to notice that the frame rate is more than 5. Yeah, the frame rate on this is actually not bad. I'd say it's probably pushing the 20s, maybe 30? That might be a bit of a stretch. But everything here is in 3D. Of course, you don't have quite the same music quality that the Super Nintendo produced. I do prefer the Super Nintendo over Genesis sound quality. This is running through a Model 1 Genesis, so it has the better sound quality compared to the Model 2, or so people say. I'm not 100% on that. Now, when we're looking at this one... Oh, I spun out. So not only is everything moving a lot faster, but we also have differences in background. So we have the 3D models next to us, but the background here is just a solid image of the sky. We also don't have much in terms of elevation changes. There's a few hills. It's not a lot. There's a little bit of a slant. What we just saw on Stunt Race FX was much more than this. But for the Genesis, with another add-on chip, this was considered pretty good. Well, as you can see, that was much better than Stunt Race FX, but what could you do on a 16-bit system to make it even better? Well, you could put that system on life support and try it again on the 32X version. Alright, for round 2 we have virtual racing, but now on the 32X. So as always, we're going to select the first choices of everything and get into a race. Now, it's pretty much the same game as last time, but now we have the 32X's power. As you can see, everything is a lot more clear, there's a lot less, checkerboarding going on, and the frame rate is definitely improved. I don't know if I'd fully say it's 60 frames per second, but it's a good step up from what we had before. But still, once again, the background is just a solid sky image, and the amount of textures and side 3D polygons is roughly about the same. I'd say just a cleaner look to it and a faster look to it. The wheels do have more polygons going on for them. As you can see, they're closer to round, but still not quite round. Now, which one plays better? Obviously this one. This game's actually kind of fun. I will say I have popped this in many times just to enjoy it. Can't say that so much with the one on the Genesis. But let's move on to something even more fun. Alright, moving away from 16-bit and life support systems, what did you have on some of the more futuristic technology? Well, the first one I want to talk about is Ridge Racer on the PlayStation 1. Let's have a look. Alright, now we're really cooking with 3D gas. We're doing some Ridge Racer on PS1. Now things are getting serious. We have not only good 2D textures, we have really good 3D modeling going on. Oh, we burned out there. We have a lot taking place in this one. This one was, of course, an arcade game first. In fact, I'm pretty sure Virtua Racing was first as well. But just look at how much more we have going on here. We got better road textures. We have a lot more polygons. The cars look like cars. Oh, we got some sliding action going on there. This is much, much, much better. This one, I dare say, is very good. And I think a lot of people will agree with that. We got announcer voices. We've got wall collisions. And we didn't just flip over end to end. This is much better. Now, of course, things got better later on the PlayStation 1 when you had things like Gran Turismo. But this is a good place to start. Now that we've covered all of the main, I guess you could say, mainstream consoles, what about some of the other ones? Some of the ones that people didn't necessarily play? Well, let's have a look. Now, as you saw, that was a lot better. But there are still two more here that have mixed results. Now, you would think that a console going from 16-bit to 32-bit to 64-bit, once you hit 64, you think it would be even better. Well, let's see if you can do the math on Club Drive. Alright, moving on to the Atari Jaguar with Club Drive. Now, this is a game that I have played before on this channel, but we're going to do another quick look at it just to get a more updated opinion on it, now that we've played all these things back to back. So this racing game has different modes to it. There's this mode where you're trying to collect a bunch of power balls and move on. There's also ones where you kind of race the clock. But yeah, this is something. It is possible to get into a better view. Let's figure out the controls. There we go. Alright, now we can kind of see the 3D modeling. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, it's glitching out. Let's, oh, we got a front view. Let's leave it in this view. That's a little more zoomed out. So, yeah, they used to say, do the math, that this was a 64-bit console. But the Virtua Racing on the Genesis was a lot better than this, I can tell you. The frame rate is smooth enough, I guess, when it's not glitching in your face. And the driving action is okay. Not great. You do have a reverse button. I gotta give it at least that. But, yeah. You know, when I played this the first time on this channel, I did say, oh, that you had to take this in context. Well, now that I'm really, really taking this in context, this sucks. Let's check out the last one. Yeah, the Atari Jaguar was something to be sure. That game just doesn't feel like it's finished. Now I have one more, and this one's also a CD-based console. This game was put out on a lot of different platforms, including the PlayStation 1, and I do have that version, and it was definitely on PC. But originally, this was planned as a 3DO exclusive, if you believe it, and that is the Need for Speed. Alright, so here we are in the last game, Need for Speed on the 3DO. One thing I wanted to leave it on the screen because when I first started playing this, I had no idea what was going on here. I guess you can check, maybe change your car and do this, but there's no writing here. It's just a bunch of random pictures. So, we're going to leave everything on defaults, like we've done so far, and we're just going to race. Now, this is what I did the first time because I was very confused as to what was what. Now, this game supposedly features some nice cars. There they are. Not bad. How about that? Don't look so bad. When you're shoved in the car, it's kind of like a 2D texture with a background of nothing. And here comes problem number 2. I sat here waiting for a countdown to happen. There is no countdown. You just kind of gotta figure out which one of these buttons puts you into gear. It ain't that one. But we want to be outside of the car anyway. Let's see. There we go. R. There's no timer. And oh, we shifted. We're back in the neutral. So this isn't automatic, but at the same time you can shift, I guess. So alright, here we go. This game has a nice flat background. It has moving textures back there. We have good road textures, we have good car textures, we have good modeling. We have collisions that actually aren't that bad. Maybe we can go in reverse. We can. We're causing havoc. Let's go back into the car and maybe cause less havoc. Maybe? I don't know. One cool thing about this game is there's a police radar scanner up here. So at some point you can be chased by the police. That's pretty advanced, I'd say, for 1994 when you're comparing everything. In fact, I'd say, besides Ridge Racer, this is probably, if not better looking than Ridge Racer, it's at least in second place. This is not bad at all. It's just kind of lacking, I guess you can say. There's no instruction when you start the game. There's no, like, select this, push this. It's just kind of open to interpretation. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. The 3DO doesn't have a whole heck of a lot going for it. Oh, we're about to pass the cop. Here he comes. But they're not very fast. We can get away. I am not giving legal advice to anybody. Don't run from the cops. But yes, this is actually pretty decent. And in 1994, in context, I would not have been displeased. With the Atari one, I would have been displeased. So okay, let's wrap this thing up. Alright, yeah, that was pretty good, I'd say. It's more than what I expected the 3DO to do. It's mostly like a full motion video system. Now, out of these 6, which ones do I think was the best? Definitely Ridge Racer on the PS1. It blows the rest of them out of the water. Now, that's not to say that some of these are bad per se. Virtua Racing on the 32X is alright. This Need for Speed is alright. And then you get into ones that are just kind of like, yeah, this probably shouldn't have happened. But it did happen, and it was for the best. Because these 6 3D racing games were kind of the foundation to a lot of things that came next. When you look at things that came out in the following years, you had stuff like Daytona USA, you had things like Gran Turismo, and games like that were humongous, especially Gran Turismo, really owe it to these first attempts in 1994. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please subscribe, give it a like, and all that kind of stuff, because I think I'm going to do more of these comparison videos. And hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.